I do think that's really that's a really fascinating thing to investigate as we go forward. Like is the digital trad wife the extremely online person, and the digital trad husband or partner or whatever you want to call it going forward, like the extremely offline person, and that's the yin and yang that makes the modern relationship dynamic work. I certainly, the jury is out, but it will be, I think, once you've sort of seen the world through that lens, I wonder if you can unsee it.
I feel like that's like, I feel like if you have that dynamic, that's a pretty normal couple. But if you have like double offline, that's probably like how you end up with someone in the far right. But if you have double online, I feel like that you probably end up, I don't know.
No,
They're probably
that's
at a
probably it.
protest.
That's right. That's the relational horseshoe of death situation, right? Where on you have two offlines on the right side, you have two onlines on the left side, and then there's degrees in the middle. All right, hip replacement number 38. Welcome back, Kyle. We're here with Ainhoa, who I think is a neighbor of yours across town in Barcelona. Did I get that right?
Yes. Good. We did not mention that beforehand, but yes, good inference. Ainhoa Marzol of Gargola Digital, which is a great, very popular in Spain Substack. She lives right down the street, technically a few neighborhoods over. I first met Ainhoa through coming to Trem Report Live. She's been in my she's been in this room. She's met my dog. She's met Bobby. She's one of the people who has met me before I've met you, Ben.
That's sort of funny, isn't it? Well, we'll change that.
Thank you.
I was going to say, we're going to change that next week, because not next week, next month, because we're going to do a hip replacement live in New York. Details to come, but that'll be fun to. Everybody will get to experience us meeting for the first time in the same way as you and Ainhoa have. Well, Ainhoa, welcome. How are you?
Thank you so much. I wanted to say that I started being a fan of Kyle like before that trend report date. So this is like super exciting to be here. It's like crazy.
Well, super excited to have you. Super like, you're one of the
live
like
up to your expectations.
Yeah, hopefully. But you're one of the crew of like local like strategy, marketing, internet people who I've met in the past year, which has been fabulous. It's like, oh, finally, I'm meeting my people, and so it's been very cool.
Yeah, it's pretty hard to do that in Barcelona. I feel like people are not super friendly. But yeah,
True.
Yeah.
But here we are. We're making it work.
Yeah.
As opposed to the famously friendly New York City.
Fair.
I'm really pleased. I'm really pleased you're here. I know, because we have a lot to talk about this week. It was a big week for generational assertions. The New York Times asserted with its T magazine cover story that Gen X was in fact the greatest generation, which of course makes me happy. But also,
propaganda.
Also, speaking of New York media, also New York Magazine ran a big piece about millennials who have now started to hit the age of 44, which the piece essentially claims is a bit of a turning point. We talked last week about a story that was in The Guardian about brain stage development and the different moments where your brain literally changes. 44 is not one of those, but New York Magazine does think it's pretty important. And having been 44, I will say, was not my favorite year, but I got through it okay. Kyle, you put this one on. What was it that grabbed you about it?
Well, I thought it was very interesting. I mean, I saw a lot of people sharing it in places that I don't usually see stories like this get shared, which to me was a sign that I was like, oh, this story is having a moment, especially with millennials. Like usually it's like it goes around Twitter, but like I was seeing people share it in like Instagram stories, which is like, that is like the people who aren't super online in a way, like they were sharing it.
Sure.
Okay. So like, this is really resonating. And like, I read it and like, I am a half decade away from that quote unquote age, but like it does sort of get at something that, like, regardless of if 44 is a true turning point age, it does get at something that sort of creeps in really subtly in your 30s, whereas, like, your body starts to change in, like, really miraculous and mysterious ways, and, like, you're like, things hit you differently, and then, like, some strange or interesting or exciting or horrifying, like, body thing will happen.
Right.
Like, for example, like, I've been, like, fighting all year this, like, really terrible back leg thing that, like, who knows what the fuck is happening, but, like,
No.
that's a really good example. Like, reading that story, I was like, I feel really seen, but also, like, then the, like, wave hits you, like, Jesus Christ, I have like 50 more years of potentially this pain. I hope not. But
yeah. Well, I mean, this I know, I don't know if you know this, but this podcast is actually named because I've had both of my hips replaced.
Oh, wow.
And I would say I would
is there lore?
It really started. It probably my pain suffering probably started around the time that I was 40, and around the time that I was 44. It kind of got to the point where I was just like, all right, I really have to do something about this. It took me another 3 years to do anything, but that was probably the point at which I was beginning to really suffer.
There was a hip story in the article. Was that you? No? Yeah.
It was not. No,
okay.
It was not me.
Well. But I mean, it to that point, like, that's a real thing, that, like, those seeds from an active life, like, they start to grow
Germinate
in your late 30s and 40s,
exactly.
where it's like, remember how you were a cyclist for X amount of years? You're gonna have to get your knees replaced. Like, things like that start to happen.
Yeah,
Like,
I know. We never ask a lady her age, but do you have any sort of particular resonance with this story?
Oh, yeah, I'm 31. So I
So you're a
don't
baby,
like
a mere baby.
Yeah. Well, I have started like noticing that my skin is not the same.
Sure.
I mean, I haven't had like huge pains or anything like that, but you do feel like you're still having the same lifestyle that you had, maybe with more
Totally.
money, but the same lifestyle that you had at 25. But you do not look the same. I remember
No.
I was at a music festival like a couple of weeks ago. I think, Kyle, you were there too in
Yes.
Nida. And
Yes.
I went to the bathroom. There were all these girls that were much younger than me. And we had a big mirror in front of us. And I was like, oh, Jesus Christ, now I'm one of those old ladies that come to festivals. And
Hardly.
just,
Hardly.
I think you just lean into that, by the way, because it's like
Fair.
once you've had that realization, it's just like there's nothing to do but either lean into it or disappear. And disappear.
Lean into it. You won't disappear. No.
Yeah, no, I think you can be a cool person that goes to those places, but the moment that it's the first time that you realize you're not one of the young ones anymore,
Right.
it's like, oh shit, it was a hard night. I don't know.
We had a little dinner. My brother and sister-in-law are in town from the UK, and we had some people over for dinner last night. One of whom is a former colleague of my wife's, who is famously a tequila drinker, and so he had a fair amount of tequila last night, and wrote her a note this morning complaining of his headache. And you just think, guys, this happens to all of us. Just thug it out. Thug
it out. That's thug it out and take your big cleanses, which I'm doing now. I'm having a big cleanse before for the holidays. I was like, this.
Oh, is that right? Really?
Too much fun. I need to let me push pause and clear everything out of my body for 3 weeks.
That's why I do Sober October every year, is to do the reset prior to the holidays, and then why I do Sober February afterwards.
Yes.
Well, speaking of thugging it out, one of the stories that you sent, Kyle, that I thought was interesting was this Pew Research study about American social media and how Facebook is thugging it out as the top site on social, in spite of TikTok, Reddit, WhatsApp, Snapchat, Twitter, etc., etc. Just given the proliferation of Facebook as a I don't know what, like the dumping ground, the place that people who are too not cool enough for Instagram stories go. Like, none of this surprises me in particular, but it is kind of amazing. Like, wait, have you been on? When was the last time you were on Facebook? Like, on purpose?
Well, this is a complicated question because I had to recently start going on Facebook for a job where like a lot of the research involves going on Facebook. But before then, fine. I had not been on there in like a real like almost a decade. I shit you not, because like when Donald Trump was elected, like I deleted my Facebook, and I was like, and it was less for no other reason than like I was so mad at like Mark Zuckerberg and for like the Cambridge Analytica shit. I was like, the least I can do is like delete my Facebook in political protest, as if that really does anything. But I was like, no, fuck you. So I did that, and so I haven't really used it. I technically have one that I made probably a few years ago because I do work in social media, and I was like, well, I can't manage an account if I don't have a blah, so I have that, but I don't use it. I don't.
But so I know. Do you use Facebook? I do not.
Yeah.
You do?
Yeah, I'm obsessed with Facebook.
Really?
You
okay,
guys,
please talk about it.
Okay.
Yes.
I totally support your political stance on this, and I think that's great.
Thank you.
But you're missing out. You're missing out so much. Like, there is like, it's not that big as like 5 years ago, but there are like these Facebook groups in which a lot of people like join together, and they are like so specific and so great. Like, there are some that are like wedding shaming groups. There are like Disney adult shaming groups. There is a lot of shaming overall. Okay. But
so it's
incredible.
So good.
Yeah.
Yeah, but without. So I mean, people who are in these groups, they are like pretty woke, pretty like
yeah.
Like, you know the group Numtots. How is it called? Numtot. No. It's like very famous one. It's like new urbanist memes for transit-oriented teens.
Oh, yes. Yes, yeah. I do know that. Yes.
Okay, so sorry, please say again for the old guy on the call.
It's new urbanist memes for transit-oriented teens. This is like one of the biggest groups in Facebook.
Yes.
That is about people who are obsessed with public transport.
Yeah. It's moved beyond that, but it's like it's a popular one.
News to me.
This is fascinating, I know, because like it sort of speaks to this thing which people always say like in our circles, like our collective circles, and I was like, whatever, but I was like, true, is that like, you know, the future of social media, quote unquote, is like non-social media or like shared interest group platforms. They always quote Strava or like Perfectly Imperfect and things like that. And like, in a way, exactly what you're talking about, Ainhoa, is like, that is it. Because like, these are like basically shared interest groups. Like, it's a social media group within a social media group. And I think that's a way that we're going to start looking at this. Is like, it's no longer Facebook. It's like the group in Facebook is the network, not the thing.
Yeah. And you're talking with the strangers. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's interesting, right? Like when I was a kid, like tween into my teens, and I was a skateboarder, and skateboarding was very, very small. One of the things you knew that anybody else who was a skateboarder you were going to get along with them, and you could tell by like clothing, or at the very least like the way that their shoes were scuffed, you could tell that they were skateboarders. And so there was this kind of shared visual language. I wonder, in these communities that get built around a shared interest or a shared lifestyle, what the you know, nonverbal signals are, and the ways in which we create, you know, badges of identification offline for these kind of deeply online things. Is there a Numtotes like tote bag?
I think
so. Oh, I don't know.
Think so. You go ahead.
There is probably yes. Numtote, yeah, definitely. I mean, but groups like Let's Pretend We're Ants, no.
Okay. Fair.
It's a great group in which someone posts a picture of a rotten apple, and everyone is like up. Like pick it.
Oh my god.
It's so great.
I love that. I mean, there is
Wait,
like
okay, So
I was
this
just saying,
this seems
there is a brain mania on Facebook that still exists. That's so great. It's like the sort of, for lack of better words, like the aging millennial and even aging Gen Z who are part of a certain quote unquote pure internet, who understand how to play a game, a social game like that online. That is lost on a lot of other platforms. TikTok can do it, but like most other places, it requires a specific like know-how and willingness. Tumblr used to be really good at this, but Tumblr is Tumblr now. But like that sort of speaks at the thing that the offlineness of it. I would say that like the way that is qualified now is through slang. Like if you're sharing similar slang, like there might be maybe a tell with like, you know, the new urbanist group, which I doubt, but like that gets into another thing, which is like there's certain like memes and like less like, you know, like lolcat or whatever, but like if you were to share, I'm making this up, but like the Madame Morrible flip it around wicked witch, like that would really tell people what corner of the internet, your taste, your communities, whatever. It's like, for example, this is a really quick example. I had a really fabulous team that I ran of writers in an agency, and somebody joined the team and dropped a Miss Juicy meme. And he was like, he pinned me on the side. He was like, I don't know if I should have done that. And I was like, no, when you dropped that Miss Juicy meme, we all knew who you were because we drop Miss Juicy memes like every other day. And if you didn't do that, we wouldn't have known that you were one of us.
Okay, well, I am not one of you. Who is Miss Juicy? What are we talking about? What's going on?
Miss Juicy, baby, from Atlanta. She was on Little Women Atlanta. She's a reality show star. She is like a disc jockey in the South. Oh, go down a Miss Juicy rabbit hole. Miss Juicy is like, she's an icon. She's an icon. She did a cover of Diet Pepsi earlier this year. Must watch.
Wow.
Must watch.
Well, I do like Diet. I like the song Diet Pepsi, to be very clear, not the drink, but the song I like a lot. Okay, I think I'm asking something a little bit different though, because this is less a question of what we share within these kind of digital realms, even if it's not the sort of native platform of the identifier. But you know, are these, when I'm walking out on Broadway in New York, how do I know that this person is a part of the same shared interest group as I am online? You know,
I think it's the same thing. It's like, because you'll hear somebody do a Miss Juicy quote and you're like,
okay, well, sure.
Like it's maybe less visual unless you have like, you know, here is my Diet Pepsi iPhone, but like, you know what I mean? Like it's
but no,
I know what you mean, but it's more subtle. It's more. If
I'm wondering. It's what I'm trying to get, not necessarily to the bottom of, but just to try to typify it. And I know, I wonder if you have any good examples of this. Like the ways in which we visually signify our cultural knowledge, right? Like the Marty Supreme jacket being a great example of this. For good or for bad. By the way, the Marty Supreme Wheaties box just dropped.
God.
So, you know, all of the sorry, as a quick digression, what I really respect about the whole 18 minutes conference call thing that endlessly debated was that they're doing everything in the call. Like, yes, all of those ideas were incredibly dumb, and they're doing them all. It's really like they've committed to the bit in a way that is, I think, really outstanding. But I just wonder, are there, you know, this must be the way that we signify, and I'm trying to think of other good examples for, you know, how I would find the other numtotes. Toters.
I think numtot, when we're going like to these groups, they are too specific, too small. You would be able to identify a skateboarder, for example, but you would not be able to identify like what, I don't know, what exact rink they skated in.
Sure.
So I think that's the main difference. But you can definitely tell if someone is in the Twitter, the X, the internet, you know, or someone is more into the Snapchat. I mean, it's also an age thing, but
yeah, for sure.
There are like some signifiers, what they think it's cool, what that is reflected on how they dress, how they,
it's kind of like in I guess, second season of White Lotus, that one character who was what's her name? The assistant, the young girl.
Oh,
Um
right. Yeah,
yeah.
sure.
Like there was a big conversation around her being like TikTok drop shop slop outfits. And that was a tell of who this person is and what internet they occupy. And that gets to that idea of like,
Sure.
you see those people, you see maybe like the Trader Joe's bag or even a Labubu, and like it tells you exactly like where they occupy in the internet and like what stage of it now. Because like, for example, like the Trader Joe's bags have hit Barcelona probably late summer, early fall.
Oh, wow.
And
Yeah.
like by
Okay.
now, like there was a big lag, but that's also a whole other thing. But like now when you see certain people doing it with the lag within the lag, it's like, okay,
Yeah.
you're you are like a bit very late to this
Yeah.
versus the other people where it's like, okay, like you were actually a part of that conversation or starting it. So like that I
Yeah.
think is like time just moves differently and things are a bit more
100%. Like with Labubus
subtle.
also, when Labubu, no, when Labubu Mania started, just started, you could still see people with Sony Angels, and it's like,
Yeah.
you're behind. You're not
Right.
like sharing the same internet
Yeah.
as I am.
Yeah. Which is
I was
like
at
that's
speaking.
part of the joy or tragedy is that like unfortunately a lot of these signals are so consumerist. Like the barista and shit. It's like you get it now or you're late. And like
Right. Sure.
unfortunately it's things you have to buy and then they just become trash. But that's a whole other thing. Sorry, you gonna say something, Ben?
No, I mean, yeah, well, I think many of them are things you have to buy. But for instance, I was scrolling through Instagram yesterday and saw a post by the Nolita Dirtbag about a flash mob that happened at Grand Central yesterday or over the weekend. So flash mobs are back now. I guess maybe we're
Recession.
now you don't
Yeah.
have to. Maybe this is the right. But logically speaking, this is the reaction to an overly consumerist
Right.
inclination to show belonging is that we go back to the ephemeral and the appear and disappear culture. So yeah, I can't wait for the numb totes subway takeover.
Yeah.
Yes.
I like this is not their peak. Their peak was 2015, I would say. I'm sure they did activities back then. Like, yeah.
I mean, it stands to reason. It stands to reason. Well, so that whole idea of getting out and touching grass, let's say, through a flash mob, is kind of an interesting one because we got further information this week, Kyle, in the story that you sent about Gen Z seeing AI as the biggest threat to their careers. This is a Fortune story from last Friday. The thing that is so interesting now, and Kate Lindsay this morning wrote in Embedded, "Stop saying we're cooked," because we have confronted these kinds of existential challenges every time. But what I guess I'm wondering is, have we fully jumped back into the notion that we have to go out and see people in public and take part in events again, or does the existence of all of these fantastic Facebook groups, I know that you keep talking about, indicate that maybe we don't have to?
It's a good
Um,
question.
yeah, I would say we're still in the like I think the Facebook groups have something that we can we can bring back to because it really feels like fresh and it feels good. And I think it's
Hmm.
mostly because no one can become an influencer and there is not this social like trying to become more, it's just
Right.
social
Interesting. Okay,
interaction.
sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
And we're missing so much of that. I
Absolutely.
do think that that's going to be the future. And right now, the easiest option is to just go out and touch grass and meet people offline. But I really hope we're going back to that social interaction, social networks.
Yeah, well, it's your point about people not being able to become influencers in those kinds of communities is fascinating because on the one hand, it mirrors the way that the social platforms, Instagram in particular, have throttled the ability of influencers with lots
Hmm.
of followers to reach, but also because it makes you wonder if the natural state of the internet is egalitarian, and because of the rise of slop and bots and overseas, propaganda farms and so on and so forth, that at a certain point you have to throw away the notion of influence and just take information at face value.
Absolutely.
I hope so.
Okay, well, listen, this is the hip replacement paradigm shift, guys. We've identified it.
I think that is very much exactly what it is, and I think that's a very realistic way of looking at where things may go, because I think it's such a binary conversation when we talk about these things, especially when it comes to AI shit. Everybody's always like, get offline, or you're just like stuck in the slop, and I don't think that is true. I think that, like, this is, and I know, Ben, you say this a lot in many episodes, is that, like, it's something we will adapt and change to, but like the internet and the way that we communicate online, like that, the communication may change, but like the internet's not going away. Like, that is not Facebook, unless a huge thing happens, like, is not going to go away. Like, these platforms will not disappear, but the way that we use them and like the contract within them will change. And I think, like, we the proof is already there. Like, the way that people, even, I know, like, how you said people use these Facebook groups is fundamentally different than how they were used 15, 20 years ago. Even when we think about, like, Instagram, Finsta, Instagram story, Instagram close friend stories, Instagram DMs, those are like 5 different ways of using the platform and communicating. They're all used for different reasons. And like, those spaces differentiate and become more and less important in a lot of ways. Like, the close friend story and like the DM is like the Facebook group is arguably like the most important part of that platform now. And I think that's true in a lot of platforms.
So this is really fascinating. Ainhoa, do you think that Facebook maybe, by virtue of blowing out its original mission and becoming so everything to everyone, overly commercialized, and then to a point where Facebook Marketplace is really the only useful thing on it, these groups have started to stealthily and under the radar return Facebook to its initial mission, which is to connect you with your friends and family?
I don't know. Like, I don't know how this is in the US. In Spain, at least, like, okay, we have these Facebook groups that I was talking about. They are pretty, like, not niche, but they are like for specific people, let's say, because people are at our age, they are mostly not on Facebook. But then here, at least in Spain, there is a lot of Facebook groups that are very community oriented. Like, for example, my town, that is a 15,000 people town, they do have a Facebook group that is like, it has 5,000 members. So like a third of the population is in it. And they talk about everything, like, oh, someone, like, there has been a fire in blah, 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 and everyone is commenting it. So there is something like that. For example, this summer I was in my boyfriend's hometown, and they had fires, like wildfires next to it. I got into the local Facebook group, and it was the best way to know what was going on. And I don't know, I do think that this, starting from local groups, there can be a change, and that is somewhere where, like, older people are very comfortable talking, are very comfortable, like, sharing information, and it's very, very accessible for them.
It's so interesting. I think you're exactly right. And like, there's a reason why, to that point, like, Facebook works, because like my mom, like my nephew, knows how to use it, which is like great. But like the other thing, I think, which is it's funny. I don't know how to put this, but like that use of Facebook is something that gets lost a bit, I think, in the US now, because there are so many like other venues that sort of like seek to do that, meaning like the Citizen app or Nextdoor, and like those are so like, just people get to be cops on there, and like it's so gross and awful. But like the way that you're talking about using it is that is a way that, that's like such a perfect, I don't want to use the word utopian, but utopian idea of what these platforms can be and should be to sharing vital information.
I'm gonna say not all messages there are utopian.
Yeah.
You cannot expect putting a bunch of baby boomers there and having a great community. But it is like there is something there, and it's totally true what you said. Is that when internet came and Facebook came from the first time, let's say 2007, or my parents, for example, they were not able to enter and to feel comfortable in that interface. It was like so weird for them, and it just like throw them back, but now they have it on their phone and it's so easy. They just scroll. They have gotten so used to like the phone interface that they can easily communicate and easily use places like Facebook. So that changes a bit.
Totally.
The universality of user experience, UX design. Interesting. I'm not cheering for Facebook. I have to be honest. I'm not cheering for it.
Do you even use it? You haven't talked about like your use cases.
No, not on purpose in many years. I mean, I wind up there occasionally clicking on links and stuff, but it's definitely not on purpose. And I'm sorry to hear that I'm missing out, because Numtotes sounds like a fantastic community. I'm sure Ants is also fantastic.
It's great.
We're Ants or whatever it is. No, I'm mainly staying out of that and instead staying engaged with the content created by the greatest generation, as asserted by the New York Times, Gen X.
God.
Kyle, I know I didn't share this article because I figured it would just be self-evident and you would, find yourself. But did you read the Greatest Generation?
I haven't. I read the headliner and I was like, okay.
Yeah,
well,
same.
All right.
I saw it on Instagram. I saw it on Instagram. I got the email. I got all of it. I even I remember I posted a comment on the Instagram post being like, this photo doesn't look real, because I got a bunch of people together and it looks like it's like cut and paste. It doesn't look real, but like it is like actually Lisa Loeb next to Usher and whatever. But a friend commented, like, you would only know it if you open it. A friend commented, what did they do that was so great? And I was like, fair, good.
Wait, what do you mean? What did they do that was so great? What?
Yeah, it's like great day for Funkos, for Funko Pops.
Yeah. It's a really great day for Funko Pops. That's very funny, actually. If you're gonna try to be cutting, be incisive, not dismissive. Like, okay, fine. Like that is actually funny. But I guess the thing that is interesting to me about it is, I mean, one, right? So as a Gen Xer on the younger side, I was born in 75. I do identify as being, part of the greatest generation, of course. Like, how could I not? But I don't think that it is unassailable logic at all to say that Gen X created the best and most enduring culture, or whatever the case is. I think we had the benefit of being historically lucky in that we arrived into our content creation, our culture creation stage at the point at which the proliferation of digital meant that everyone could access and venerate the content that was most important to us, but then B, that it would subsequently push down the ability for everything else to be heard to a similar level. So it's this kind of like incremental compounding, the same way as, the baby boomers have been able to incrementally compound their wealth by just staying alive and keeping their money invested.
I mean, it's an interesting, attention grabbing, if not rage baity headline. Absolutely.
And
but I do think
by design,
absolutely. But I do think there is a really interesting, maybe this is a part of the story, I haven't read it yet. But like I do think it is interesting to think about Gen X as like the last quote unquote true generation. Meaning that like, everything to what you just said is that like a generation who came of age before the great quote unquote like internet switch. Like there are some which happened probably midway through millennials. Like there's a conversation about the Xennials, Zillennials, whatever you want to call them, who experienced a bit of both versus like me. I was more like, internet popped up in the way that we sort of know it more or less in like high school, late elementary school. So like that is a different relationship to like high school or college or when you were early mid-career.
Right.
But that is like, I think that's something that's not talked about enough is that like Gen X existed, like was that last generation. I think oftentimes that crown goes to older millennials, but I think that's a misdirect completely. And like, I think that is something that like more people should talk about. I think there should be more like from younger generations talking to Gen X, hence the podcast, but like about those times and seeking that counsel and seeking that sort of understanding. Like, I think it is starting to happen more, but I think that the intergenerational conversation between younger and Gen X, I think is going to be really important for the future.
It's funny. Series producer Campbell, the other day, he was home for Thanksgiving break, and I showed him. We got into a conversation about. Funny enough, the way that very sage wisdom or very valuable information can often pass between people, and be taken as crucially important by one and not even register with the other. I was telling him a story about how I learned one of my big philosophies is like act like you belong there, and you can typically, prosper in the situation that you're in.
That's
and
I
learned that
philosophy.
I learned that from an article that Spike Jonze wrote in Grand Royal magazine in 1995 about swimming in hotel pools in Los Angeles. It was a guide to pool hopping in Los Angeles, and it was like, here's what you do to go to the Sunset Marquis. Here's what you do to go to the Mondrian pool. Here's what, it's like, here's the door you go into. Here's where you grab the towels. Here's the person you try to avoid, et cetera, et cetera. But it was, the message was, act like you belong there, and nobody is going to question you. And I took that to heart. And 20 years later, because I had the privilege of working with Spike a little bit, I said to him, I was like, that article really changed my life. And he said, what are you talking about? He had no recollection. No recollection. Never mind of giving the advice. He had no recollection of writing the article. He had no recollection of any of it. I had to go home and find the magazine and scan it for him and email it to him. And then he was like, oh yeah, I guess I do remember that. But it was just like, this thing literally changed my life. And Spike had no recollection of it whatsoever. Anyway, I showed Campbell that issue of Grand Royal because I was telling him the story, and he was just like, man, magazines rule. I love magazines. And I was like, all right, this is kind of cool. Like maybe this is where the kids come back and interface with us. By the way, I went to see Library 180, and Kyle, when you're here, we'll have to go visit Nikki who runs it. But is this archive of print collateral from pre-2012 that she uses as an image archive. And the thing that I was struck by when I was there was that it was full of kids in their 20s, like tripping out on how awesome print collateral was. And I just thought that was cool. But that moment of exchange is starting to happen in those liminal spaces, and will hopefully increase.
I think it technically there are, yourself included, there are a lot of Gen X persons who are parents, but I do think I'm excited for Gen X to step into the like elder statesman role and start to take on cultural children, let's say, because I think that's been something that's been really lacking in from the upward. I don't know how to describe this, but I think millennials, I felt this. Gen Z, I know I have younger friends who told me this, and maybe I know you have a similar thing, is like there has been a gap in sort of mentorship and sort of like that cross-generational, like, let me teach you something or tell you something about the old days or whatever. And that has really been something people I know long for. And I think the more that quote unquote Gen X people realize that, they'll start to share that. I think that will heal a lot of culture. Honestly, that sounds so ridiculous, but like I think that
100%.
people are looking for that, and they've been looking for that for well over a decade.
I think you're right. I wonder to what extent though we are at a place where that, or whether with Pantone naming the color of the year white, that DEI is actually over. What I mean, I'm jokingly, of course, is the notion of like, have we gotten back to a place where discussion can be had at face value, as opposed to where we are, counterparties are trying to wield power dynamics over one another in terms of like who's like who has the right to be right, so to speak.
I think offline for sure.
Do you think so? Because I think I think so. Maybe this is the big argument about Gen X, is that we lived through the last like cultural era where you could be politically incorrect, and it didn't have it didn't, there was less likelihood that it was a true liability. You could be provocative for the sake of being provocative, and I'm not saying that's right 100% of the time. It's definitely not, and I'm also not saying it's the natural and best state of things, but I do think that was one of the contributing factors that makes the generation especially like culturally rich.
I think people are collectively exhausted of quote unquote cancel culture. And I think like there's a big conversation happening right now on TikTok about like, a lot of this contract of being online, whether you're a normie or a celebrity, is inherently dehumanizing. And like people are getting quote unquote canceled for the stupidest shit, for just like sharing a photo of their day. And so like I think people who are quote unquote who knows, like high-minded whatever, are sort of realizing the contract doesn't work. And I think like even with, and this is very American TikTok, is like the turkey trot prank fiasco, which was like for the people who are unfamiliar,
yes,
like
please.
There was a turkey trot for people who aren't American, is like on Thanksgiving Day. It's like a marathon you run, and like people who do it are, you think a bit like you're crazy, like this is a holiday, you should be relaxing, but they do this turkey trot in the morning. I mean,
to be fair, it's more like a 5K. It's like typically a 3-mile run, not the
whatever you
want
to call it. Sure, it is exercise on a day that is usually associated with like relaxing and being indulgent.
Rest, sure.
But anyway, so this prank is like this fiance it's her first Thanksgiving with the family, and she's been told this is a turkey trot family. And so the whole family, they're posing for a photo, all in their workout gear, wearing their turkey trot shirts that they made. And like as they go to take the photo, the sister of the fiance, or her brother, says that it's a joke, that they were kidding. And like the fiance is like in shock and like can't understand what's happening. And so it was really funny. I thought it was hilarious, but it caused this huge drama on TikTok where people were like, she probably trained for months. She was probably she probably was like traumatized. They're probably getting divorced. Like she probably had the worst Thanksgiving. And like everybody read into it and just like canceled this whole family who said nothing about it. They deleted the video because they were like, too much drama. But now people are reacting to that and being like, what the fuck are you talking about? Who gives a shit? Like, we don't need therapists coming on here and psychoanalyzing it, which they did.
Okay, so I know I have to ask, everything Kyle just described is, in my mind, uniquely American, not just Thanksgiving turkey trot, but also the like completely idiotic impulses involved in all of it. As a European, do you, or as a Spanish person or a Catalan person, excuse me, I don't know, but do you look at that and go, what are these idiots on about? Or is that just the internet now and you're like, okay, it's the internet?
It's the internet. I can yeah, maybe like, okay, that it's true that America is bigger and there are like more diverse minded people, but yeah, it's definitely going on everywhere.
So what is what is the in your small town of 15,000? Is there an equivalent?
Oh no, I cannot think of any right now. But
Okay.
yeah, we have had like I don't know, people who are show like some things that are like tradwave-ish, and they have been canceled because of that. Like not even having a actual political stance about it. Like, okay, yeah, they cook, and it's obvious there are like some implications, yeah, but like, why are you canceling someone because of that? Just,
Right.
I don't know. Which, I mean, it has the opposite effect because then you have a lot of people saying, oh, the left is doing blah, blah, blah. And it's like, no, it's just like weird people on the internet who are canceling this person because of this.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, and speaking of when you said tradwife, it made me think of this over the weekend. I was walking with my wife in Soho, and we walked past the Dairy Boy pop up. You familiar with Dairy Boy?
No, but
Okay,
yeah, no.
so Dairy Boy, let me find out. I'm going to find out. I believe her name is Paige Lorenz. But anyway, there is a tradwife influencer who's Paige
Yeah,
Lorenz.
Paige Lorenz.
Who has this brand called Dairy Boy, which is like a lifestyle, cozy New England inspired apparel, home goods, and related collaborations. But it's very tradwife. And so we walk past and there's this big line, and my wife is like, "What is Dairy Boy?" And I'm like, "Oh, that's like the Paige Lorenz influencer brand." She's like, "The who?" And I was like, "Yo,
Who?
like
What?
the tradwife influencer." She's like, "What tradwife? What are you talking about?"
God
And I'm
bless her.
like, we're well, but my point is not just that she's managed to escape all of that idiocy, but also that, like, we're married. We talk a lot every day. She hears me record this show.
Yeah.
Like the fact that something that is as elemental to the three of us as tradwife, right? You don't even think about that reference, is like, it's a million miles from her universe, even though she's very, very plugged into the ecosystem that we live in most ways. It's remarkable.
Okay. Question for the
That's how I
culture.
feel about numb totes.
Well, fair enough. But question, I guess, for Ainhoa, because like, I think that sort of like, I feel like the three of us are exactly that in our relationships, because Bobby, my partner, he very much is exactly what you described, Ben. Where
Is that right? Really?
Like,
I'm surprised.
Even I will do a trend report live here, and I'll be doing something, and he's like, I had no idea about this, and everybody will be like, how did you not know about this? Or like, we'll be talking about something, and I'll bring something up, and he's like, what? And I'm like, I've talked about this. I've sent it to you on TikTok. So like, it's a very funny,
right?
The very online and very offline. I think that's every couple now. Like, I know, is your boyfriend very online?
No, he is very
Okay.
online. Yeah.
Oh, he is?
And I talk too much. Like, every time I discover something new, it's like, hey, do you know about this? And he's like, I have no idea. And so
Okay.
I just like, you're going to know now.
You can
Yeah.
still be
That's-
very online, and there are different nuances, because Bobby's very online too, and it's just like, he's not online as I am, and like, I know it's probably the same for you. I think that's like a new relationship model that's clearly cross-generational.
I do think that's really, actually, that's a really fascinating thing to investigate as we go forward. Like, is the digital tradwife the extremely online person, and the digital trad husband or partner or whatever you want to call it going forward, like the extremely offline person, and that's the yin and yang that makes the modern relationship dynamic work. I certainly, the jury is out, but it will be, I think, once you've sort of seen the world through that lens, I wonder if you can unsee it.
I feel like that's like, I feel like if you have that dynamic, that's a pretty normal couple. But if you have like double offline, that's probably like how you end up with someone in the far right. But if you have double online, I feel like that you probably end up, I don't know.
No,
they're probably at a protest.
That's right. That's the relational horseshoe of death situation, right? Where on you have two offlines on the right side, you have two onlines on the left side, and then there's degrees in the middle.
Extreme right.
Oh my God.
Here,
Exactly.
two people are
Fair.
I think
Fair.
we'll. So I mean, somebody's going to have to bring this to life. We'll get Edmund Lau to render this.
It's like, maybe I'll write about this. We'll see.
As a luxury meme. Right, or Kyle, you can write about it, or somebody, we can get Real Housewives of Clapton to create a horseshoe with the sneakers of the modern digital tradwife. Well, I know it's been a pleasure to talk to you. Thanks for being here on Hip Replacement with us.
Thank you so much for inviting me. This has been great. Thank you so much.
Of course. Thank you for joining us.
Likewise. Well, you two will see each other in Barcelona, but I know, where can we find you, or where can the kids find you on the
they
internet?
can find me on my newsletter, Gargola Digital. I'm taking a hiatus right now, but who knows? Maybe in the future
you'll be back.
I'll come back. Yeah.
Gotcha. All right, so we'll look for you there, and in the meantime, Kyle and I record this every week, so hopefully you'll be back to see us at some point in the future, and we'll
I'd love that.
dig into our investigation of the digital tradwife paradigm.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, in any case, guys, you've been listening to Hip Replacement. This is episode number 38, and we will be back next Tuesday with a new episode. So look forward to seeing you then.
See you then. Thanks, y'all.
Bye.